Hey everybody, Radamon here. Thanks for tuning in to Oxygen Not Included. So last episode we finished up a lot of our current projects, and all that we're left with is this weird side project of designing a giant tube from space to magma. And in order to do that, we are probably going to have to manufacture a whole lot of insulation. So I started retooling the rockets for insulation, because insulation is expensive to make, and I don't have a lot of it. That's the full stop. So what we're going to be doing is sending our guys on short-run missions to get more iso-resin for the insulation. And also I should take a look at how many reeds I have, because insulation here, if you take a quick look, does require reed fiber. So I have 775 reed fiber left. I am getting it, but 775 reed fiber will net me about 155 insulation, something like that. So that's another thing to consider. And with that in mind, it means that if I want to get more reed fibers, I would have to either switch over my other ranch, that is glossies, to regulars, or start another ranch or something like that. I don't think I'm going to need more reed fiber than that, but you know, we'll see if I deplete my reserves or not. So now at this point, we're just waiting on the petroleum engine, so that these two rockets are essentially going to be the same size, just one a little higher than the other. And we are currently not really doing much more about the sweeping. Essentially, I want to get the tube ready, but I'm not going to pull the trigger on the tube just yet. This is going to be one of those things that we have ready as sort of a joke to end this series, but we don't actually build. Not yet, at least. So some of these regular tiles here, the worry I guess I have with them is that heat from magma will seep, but we'll have to see. It's one of these wait and see type situations. It's possible that it ends up fine. So honestly, a lot of this episode is going to just be me working on the magma tube, and you would be forgiven if you'd want to skip this episode, as it's sort of, I hate the term, but memey? Like a meme or something. Obviously, it's not a very useful project, but it is a good demonstration of how to remove sort of waste from your little asteroids. Because at some point, you might say to yourself, you know, I have way too much X, Y, or Z. You know, I've got too much regolith or mafic. Let me get rid of it. So this would be one of the methods that you could employ to rid yourself of mafic rock and regolith, if you wanted to. And there's some complex projects into turning that into power and igneous rock creation, which really has its own benefits. Obviously, there's some measurable reasons as to why you might want to do that. Okay, let me take a quick temperature check. So a lot of this abyssalite is probably not safe to dig into because it is hot. So I'm just going to dig as low as I am able and not go any lower than the abyssalite level. I'm trying to basically create space for this oil to drain out, so that there isn't oil that will turn into petroleum and then sour gas. I don't want to accidentally make a sour gas boiler, in other words. All right, doing the quick math, and I'll have to do this math again with Ani Assistant. A 2-cargo bay launching on Oxalite at 10,000 would be, let's see, would be 564? Does that sound right? I guess so. Okay, let's do that. 564 and 564. If it needs to change, I do have the gantries and all that to be able to change it. 564. Oh, we almost got that built. So we have our launch tubes cleared and ready. Now we're just going to have to wait on the refueling of petroleum. And another thing I wanted to check is the heat that's in here. I'm going to put back this ceiling light. I'm thinking that now that we have coolant running through our natural gas generators, maybe it won't overheat like it did before. It's possible. Why is this flipping on and... Oh, it's not. It's just letting it flow through. Okay. Oh, another thing I have to do is I forgot that I have storage down here. And yes, there is a whole lot of additional reed fibers that need to get moved. Okay. It also looks like my ice melted and spilled a whole lot of water everywhere. Because I don't really have a big catch basin here. And, well, therein lies a bit of a problem, I suppose. Okay, come on, Oxidizer Tank. There we are. And pause just for a second. So 564 seems to be the magic number. Let's see if that number is correct. So this, yes, can reach. This has a range of exactly, well, 4 kilometers more, but basically exactly the required trip, so... I guess the honey calculator can be trusted. I mean, I figured it could, but best to test. Trust but verify, right? Well, if we are going to need some additional reed fibers, it would help if I finish this tube up and could tame some of these, wrangle some of these Drecos, so we'll get started on that. And then this tank here, I'm going to have to raise the priority, I guess, to 8, so that we actually refuel it. The ladders up here, are they acting as a heatsink? Well, if they're acting as a heatsink, I could remove them. And there's our little sweepies, just trying their darndest to keep up with the demands. All right, let's go down to the oil biome again. And yes, our efforts to make room, excuse me, our efforts to make room for the oil has indeed been paying off. I'm going to prioritize highly this mining to make a little bit more room. And then I think this deconstructing errand is probably unobtainable. I don't want to get in here. This is Sporchids. I don't want to mess with Sporchids. Sporchids, if you're not aware, are kind of like zombie flowers, I guess. We can read the database entry. They have an eerily alluring appearance to mask the fact that they have a brain fungus. It's a very, very, very bad disease if you get Sporchided. This one is, because of the atmosphere being non-carbon dioxide, it's idle. But if it was blooming, it would have a very high decor. A dead one does not, of course, but a living one does. But they're very dangerous to have in your colonies. Oh, good, good, good. We did the whole drop into the oxalite. Cute. I love when we do that. Absolutely, that's my favorite. It makes me almost want to put a thermium sweeper here, but even thermium might not be a great material to hold up against the blast tubes of my rockets. So, could someone please put that away? Thank you. I don't know who did. Oh, who to thank? Sine Curve. Sine Curve, who is heading on a space mission. He is the pilot and the refueler. What a legend. All right, so this here, we're just headed to this asteroid. He's already set to go. And Muhammad is chasing him like some sort of drag race. Perfect. Double rocket, one asteroid. Godspeed, you two. So now with them gone, the focus on the magma tube continues. The current priorities for this project is about a 7. Sounds about right. I will kick it up. Well, let me figure out what everyone else is working on. So, one who's many is making insulation. We have 300. We have about 1.5 tons of the stuff. So actually, I might be pretty good. Well, we'll have to see, but I might be pretty good about the amount of insulation that I'm making. Obviously, I'm going to have to attain more resources for it, but we have a healthy starting amount. So the plan is to have a significant amount of insulation tile to prevent the heat of this magma from spilling over everywhere else, trying to isolate it as best we can so that we might be able to destroy the mafic rock and regolith, but without killing anyone, ideally. This ladder here also, if not made out of insulation, it's going to have some problems of its own. This year, I guess we'll slap a 7 on. Another issue that we were having is the reduction of natural gas. So, yeah, our natural gas is not looking great. It's actually pretty low comparatively. So what I'm going to do is disable 2 of the natural gas generators and let the natural gas replenish, so that we don't run out of it and we can rely a little bit more heavily on the hydrogen. Of course, with this new smart battery grid, I kind of want these little automation wire annoying alerts to go away. So I'm gonna do just that. Curious if I can't just wire them up to one another and have them stop annoying me. Should have closed those doors already. Alright, duplicates, what are you working on? We're out of lime. That is not a surprise. But we're not out of fossil. Okay. I'm going to reduce these down to 6. As they're sort of a less urgent task than, you know, what I previously dedicated to it. Now that we're doing the space missions out to the carbon asteroids, I don't really need to run my kiln anymore, as this kiln was running to make refined carbon, but we have lots of it now. But what I will do is move this here, because this area is a little toasty and would benefit. Well, another thing is, so here is what happens to your steel. Oh, Lord. Okay, we're only, yeah, we have more room, but see how this steel here, I left it, these bunker tiles, I left it in the blast zone of the rocket. As you can see, it got a little spicy hot. But as does, you know, the bunker steels underneath the regular platforms. It's just, I'm now heating up 2 things of steel, one sort of unnecessarily. Okay, that is very ugly. I'm going to fix that. Now that I'm using isoresin, I don't so much need the mesh tile. Because the isoresin doesn't spill. One cool thing you could do about isoresin is to have liquid locks that are very tall, if you wanted to. because they don't, you know, they don't really follow the same gravitational rules as other objects. Yeah, so it is on the other side of this abyssalite. As you can see, it gets really, really, really hot. So I really can't dig into the abyssalite to make any more room for the oil. The best I could do is just... maybe I could dig this out a little bit. Like that. That's probably all that I'm going to be able to do to make room for this abyssalite. But it seems like we've gotten most of the oil out of the way and put it somewhere a little bit safer, which is going to be good. Both my missions are about 55% done. All right, taking a look up here, we have the old lines. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to have conductive wires. This will connect up here. And then the old wires, which are made of steel, we're going to reclaim that material. And just like everything else, this becomes a 9. As I stare at it, we do it. So turning off those 2 natural gas generators, it will also generate less heat and allow this room to cool off a little bit, which is good. I can't say that the natural gas amount has bounced back just yet, but at least we're giving it the chance to. My oxygen's still flowing out of here. Ice cold. Now, how is that affecting the rest of the base? So, one of the ways it's affecting the rest of the base, as soon as the pipes are not insulated, which is about here, as you can see, there is a definitely a spine of cold. That's a pretty metal way of saying it, but it's obviously a lot cooler right where the pipes aren't insulated, and that will eventually equalize with the edges, which are not being actively cooled. So this is fine. This is pretty much how I want my air conditioning working. Yeah, the amount of water that this base makes is just absurd. Okay, our tower path, whatever you want to call it, did get a little bit taller. That's good. The tube. Yeah, and a little bit lower. As you can see, we've cracked into some new salt water, and we're pretty close to the bottom now. Well, it's just close-ish. Trademark. We are delivering insulation with Angelia, so we're going to see some insulation here. And then the insulation tiles here have a melting point beyond the temperature of magma. Magma is about 4,000, let's round it, and then this is about 6,000. So the insulation tiles can stand up with direct contact with magma, as could something like abyssalite, because if you take a look at the properties of abyssalite and insulation, insulation is even more harder to melt than abyssalite. Same with obsidian, but obsidian's a little bit less. So a insulation tube will not melt when touching magma, whereas the regular insulation tile that we were using before, this kind of igneous insulation tile would melt. So it is important to include insulation here, you know, to protect against melting. But I'm happy to see this get constructed. So the bottom of this tube, where it's going to be the most hot, will have the insulation, and then I'll just continue making insulation as I am able. Because the more insulation that I add to this tube, the less that the heat that is generated in here will affect my base. Because that was a concern, and still is, but it's a concern for, you know. For the life of all of my duplicates if I'm messing with magma. Well, I guess my rocket will destroy that stuff. We have a strike coming in. Actually, I'm a little worried that this scanner isn't going to open in time. So I'm going to manually override open the door here. Even though there's strikes, I don't think that these doors will open themselves in time. Oh my god, open, 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 open. Oh, wow. I am so glad I did a manual override because I had not but milliseconds to spare. That was close. Holy moly. All right, well, good job, me. And now the cleanup of all of this. Oh, we got 2 artifacts, the Magma lamp and the small obelisk. That's cool. The cleanup of all of this now superheated material as a result of that strike. And landing there. Whew. Talk about close. So we're going to allow the refueling. I'm going to have to keep an eye to make sure that they don't waste any oxalite. And then the obelisk and the Magma lamp will get placed into my hall of trophies, or whatever we want to call them. I'm also missing a lamp here. I just realized. I think we were using it as a light source, but I'll probably move it. So here's the lamp. Here's the obelisk. This is a bad use of space artifacts other than to just flex that I've got them. So the lamp was placed in here, and I am going to remove that and place it up here. All right, how's the tube looking? We have continued digging down. And I'm going to have to hunt some Pokespawn. And in the interest of lime, I will probably clean up the eggshells and all that stuff there. I know there's fossils here, but I think the amount of steel that we have is pretty solid. Pun actually not intended this time. All right, seems to me that the oxalite delivery has not faltered or failed this, which is good. Let's clean up the launch pad and get ready for another launch. Now, all of this new iso resin, if we take a look at the rare resources, we now have 400 kilograms or so of iso resin. Oh, yep, 400 now. That's a pretty good amount. I'll probably just do 1 or 2 more launches of this. So we're not going to need infinite iso resin. Alright, that was the combat of the Pokeshells being targeted. We have some of my duplicates heading out that way. Alright, this is a lot of sweeping to do. A lot of molt here. Probably not worth my time, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'll just lower the priorities a little bit. So we're tidying up that regolith. That lovely regolith. Alright, I think it's all tidied up, so Muhammad and sine curve, return. And this is also a question of how much material is left, right? So it replenishes about 166 kilograms a day, but I'm probably withdrawing more than that. But it would take a great many cycles or an insane amount of ships to ever really diminish the total capacity. Oh, they're both here. So a launch at the same time, shall we? Of course, one has a bit of a head start, but it's not a race. It's just for material. All right, look at our efforts. So we tried to move the oil out of the way, and I'd have to say we win. We did it. The oil is no longer... I mean, we can mop up what remains, but it is no longer a problem for us. It took a bit of effort and time to get the oil out of the way, but good job, everybody. Natural gas is holding steady at 2. I can live with that, as long as it's not going down. The geyser dormancies, only for 8 more cycles is it dormant, so that's not very long to wait for replenishment. And this one's not going dormant for another 40, so we'll have 32-ish cycles where they're both running. Oh boy, water. Oh boy, indeed. So I think y'all see what's going on. I make too much water. I could decrease my water in one novel way, which is to just start growing crops that require it. You know, if we had hydroponic farms for crops, my dust caps don't require water, but I could start making something that did, like bristle flower, you know, some sort of crop if my water is becoming full. But I might not worry about that, because I can also just pump the water out, right? This is a pump that's actively working, and I could just decide to have that pump water to nowhere. Like, I could pump water to this polluted oxygen area or something. Or I could make the world's most amount of steam. I don't think I'll be doing that. It's a little bit too destructive. But I could do that as well. Oh, look at you, Bryce. That seems like a terrible job. How about we mop over... Actually, we're going to have to mop that. The best way I could do is... let's see, my tube will be here. So put an isoresin block there. Because everything right of that block doesn't matter. No, we did it. We actually removed enough oil that it's not leaking over. Well, good job, guys. So this is unreachable because these ladders have yet been built. And a new printable of Drecklid eggs. Great. I had mentioned that we might need additional Drecklets. Let's take a look at our pops now. 7 and 6. Good enough. I'm not going to worry about incubating anything. We're also getting pretty close to the top. So I would say, conservatively, let's zoom out here. If you take a look at the tube here, I've gone maybe almost half of the length it needs to be, like 40%, something like that. When my bunker doors open, it does not look like I have any power shortages. Ooh, but I did run low. No doubt about that. We've also been burning coal, which is I'm not thrilled about, but whatever it takes to get the job done. So here's the insulation. And we are just going to clean up this oil. The worry about this oil, though, is... we have enough space. What we don't have, though, is oil for the oil refinery to refine. So if we take a look down here, this liquid pump no longer has a source of oil. I'm going to put it here. And then I'm going to invest in the plumbing. And then I'll also have to invest in, you know, everything else. The cabling. But let's have a source of oil again. What was this made out of? Gold amalgam? Oh, okay, that's fine. This amount of oil here is probably all that I will need. I can't imagine needing more than this. And we'll continue sweeping up that crude. My only worry is that the crude deposit here fills up, but it doesn't look like it's even close to filling up, so maybe it's not a worry I should have. But this oil reserve did serve us for a long time, and well. Respect. Okay, my rockets are 70% done. And we seem to be no closer to digging up this debris in the way. But I'll get my guys on it. So this is going to take a little bit of work here to put in igneous pipes and the wires and all that to get this oil. But this is a lot of oil, so it's worth it. And now it looks to me like my duplicants just finished up sweeping up the oil that I had mopped. So now what's left here is just to start building the lower segment of the tube, and I'm having it be a 3-wide tube here. Also means that everything inside the tube, the 3-wide area, needs to be mined out. Maybe I shouldn't use the word destroyed, because I'm not really destroying it. Alright, checking the space dock. Cool. We will be set to land soon. And now, taking a quick look at the work errand. We've gone through a considerable amount of reed fibers already, but, and about half of our iso resin. But I do think it's going to be enough insulation for the lower half of the tube. I don't think that will be much of a problem. Rise is definitely getting himself... Oh no, he snuck around. Good for you. Now let me repurpose this to iso resin ladders. That will help considerably with the with this task. We're almost all done with the plumbing. Actually, it looks like we're done with the plumbing, and all that's left is getting the wiring and the pump itself. Well, that's awesome. In terms of petroleum, let me take a quick look at the coolant. It looks like there's not a ton of coolant running through. So I am going to... Oop, 2 space missions completed. I'm going to open up the petroleum valve and let more petroleum go through. I'll try to remember to close the petroleum valve at some point. But no promises, because I'm bad at that. Oh, cheeky little slicing me up at the last second there. Oh, and my left bunker doors are gone. We did bring back a shield generator, which is, you know, a cosmetic artifact. What am I making this out of? Mafic rock? Let's not do that. Well, that's a bit of a problem. I am down some bunker doors because I smashed them up or whatever. I guess they didn't... And maybe we ran out of power and they didn't... they ran, you know... Because I could see all the steel that broke down here. Well, that sucks. I guess I know my new 9. And we have a decent amount of isoresin as a result of that. How did this melt? You guys, what are you doing here? What kind of ship am I running? A leaky one? So yeah, this will be annoying until I have those bunker doors constructed. We are just free to get hit. And there's naught else I could do about that. The building attunement probably means that the strikes are done, though. So at least there's that. I'm going to raise my fossil to lime up. And we'll do eggshell to lime, pokeshell molt to lime, small pokeshell molt to lime. Trying to get lime every possible way that we can. And have that crusher as a 9. So that we prioritize it. Looks like our doors are coming back in now too. Now I'm gonna leave these. How did this fill back up? Oh, because we stood on the regolith to fill it. That's clever. I'm gonna leave these grinded for a little bit so that my astronauts can help with base tasks. So I'm not going to relaunch immediately. How about that shield generator, huh? It's too bad it's cosmetic. But if we take a look at the decor here, it's like 900 something. It's 800 or so past its maximum value. It's a pretty room. Just not one that serves function. And then there's a little sliver of unreachable over here. So let's get that built. All this, I guess we could break down. It's made of refined copper, so it wouldn't hurt to have. Yep, there's the little shield generator. So now both sides have their Oxalite and they're ready to launch when I am. As I said, I am going to purposely wait a little while, but... working on the tube instead, which is full of slime lung oxygen. Ooh boy, that's just wonderful. Yeah, it takes a long time to sweep this stuff up. And that's what's really slowing this project down, is just trying to clean up after myself. Part of me says just let it all drop. Just drop into the magma and burn up. Well, knowing that that's not maybe the most constructive way of dealing with garbage. Garbage incinerators are a pretty imperfect solution. I really don't have much more room for water until the feed loop gets full. But I'm not sure what I want to do about that. Like I said, I could start a farm, but that means drawing manpower away from projects to work on the farm, and I might not want to require my guys to be farmers. So as you can see here, the insulation has a very special color, much like hydrogen. It's a very, very, very bright pink. If we go to, I guess, what is it, mineral? You can see where I've used insulation. I haven't used much of it. Have I insulated? I have insulated in my base, haven't I? Maybe not. I thought I used some insulation before as a demonstration. Maybe it was in my plumbing or something, I don't know. But, yeah, not a whole lot of it I've used yet. Okay, so the rest of this stuff is water weed. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. And then down here, same deal. Filling in the sides. This is, of course, just like standard granite. So it is susceptible to temperature shock and whatnot. I could have insulation, but even the standard granite won't melt until about 1,000. And if there's about 1,000 here, you know, if it's 1,000 degrees in this tube, I have different problems. Needless to say, my list of problems are probably not high on the list is that it was made out of granite. Now, I haven't really been fighting the slime lung in this tube system. And the only place I have a buddy bud, it's not done much. I have one buddy bud here, and as you can see, it's full slime lung on the other side of this visco gel wall. Some of the ladder and insulation did get built, though. That's exciting. Now, I think I probably have already done enough demonstration that the insulation cannot really be used for mega projects. You're never going to have enough of it to be able to make mass amounts of insulation. I'm just taking a look at my oil and petroleum quantities. Okay, so my petroleum is totally drained. Let's turn off this valve. That means that my coolant should be well supplied, though. And it is so much better than it was before. And then once we get this ladder in, which should be set to 9, we will have our pumps ready. Just set all that to 9. 9 for everything. Such as tradition. Copious free time is just like, all right, let's destroy everything. I mean, I asked for him to. So I suppose I can't say anything but appreciation for that. Dedication to the deconstruction jobs. Copious free time, the master of the deconstructive arts. Okay, almost plugged in. So I'm going to work on the left insulation wall first, because once the left is done, I can't really get there anymore, and then I'll work on the right. Finish up this tube, which will take me a few more episodes, I think. Maybe not a few, but at least one, if not more, of solitary focus. How hot is my... my petroleum's coming off. Not too hot. About 200 Fahrenheit. About boiling water temperature. That's not that bad. It's been a lot less reasonable in the past. All that's left now is building the... Oh, the plumbing has a gap too. We're getting the plumbing done. And the electricity, and then we'll be back to refining oil to petroleum. Now, I'm not going to dig into this abyssalite because the this abyssalite right here is superheated. So I'm going to wait until the rest of the tube is done, and that will be kind of the last thing I dig. Because if I do it too early, I release a lot of heat where I don't want heat. And then there's all of these items here. Just stacks of random stuff that has fallen as a result of this tube build. We have random insulation that is just gotten dropped, I suppose. Why were you in the water? Maybe he's trying to pump something? I don't know. It's odd. My dupes shouldn't have to go into the water very often. Insulation doesn't require water, so I'm not sure why. I don't believe they're using it as a manufacturing material, but who knows? Alright, time for the dreaded 9. This over here I don't really care about. The Sporchid is now free, I guess because the lead collapsed as a result of it not being very structural. But as long as there's no carbon dioxide here, I'm good. I think, with that said, it is worth my time to make sure that I dig this up. I do not want this releasing brain fungus. It's worth the time it takes to make a few crude ladders. Because super brain fungus sounds super terrible. So now we're stockpiling our oil refinery so that we can make petroleum again. And we'll get someone on that refinery soon. The very, very cold refinery. There's two... yeah, I think you can see the temperature there. It's kind of funny. There's two Weezeworts in there that have just been chilling the thing for a long time. And this Weezewort, I was planning on planning, so we'll get that done. I guess I'll make fertilizer. I don't really need the food for the Paku. From the Paku. And then, of course, I do have Wheezeworts elsewhere, like this one. That I could dig up and utilize elsewhere. They originally had a good function, which was to protect our protect the air from a spreading, you know, spreading diseases, spreading slime lung or whatever. But now they don't have that kind of purpose anymore. So the rest of this is just going to be sweeping up the debris that we're mining out, delivering the insulation, and forming the full tube. I might need to change over the insulation, the granite ladders up here, from granite to insulation, just to make sure everything that's in the magma biome is indeed insulation. I think just for safety's sake. Because if it's not, it could have some really negative consequences. I wouldn't want to have my ladders melting into the magma, adding volume to the magma. That sounds like a bad time. Setting the molecular forge up to the 9, and then if we take a look at my steel, I could definitely make a whole bunch more steel now, because a lot of the lime that we've been recapturing and purposing is being crushed. Paddy Wagon is making sure to punch that button. I guess I'll put a wart seed up here too. That one will be freed up. Man, the amount of running they have to do just to sweep this area up, because it's like about as far as you could be from the colony. It's very, very labor intensive. I'll say that. I'm also quite glad it's far from the colony, because if it wasn't, the heat that this project could generate could be really terrible too. Some of this is igneous though, so it's going to be useful to have that in my storage boxes. And the temperature of this stuff is hot, but not hot enough that it's going to do terrible things to the base. It's not thousands of degrees, it's just 100 plus, you know. Like 177 Fahrenheit. It's warm. But it's just like super hot food right out of the oven or something like that. I'm going to see if I can't start lowering the temperature of my coolant, so it's a little bit more effective to pull heat away from the natural gas generators. So we're all swept up down here. Now what's left is to make that insulation and start making the vertical tube. We're gonna have a little bit more to sweep because of the replacing of the granite ladders. As you can see, there's gonna be granite that falls. Is my fridge... No, we haven't freed up any space. Okay, never mind. So we're running out of fossils, running out of pokey shells. We have eggshells and a little bit more poke shells yet to crush. Bothers me a little bit that we're not doing this in batch. We're just doing these one at a time, but whatever. And then I think the ladder and the insulation will stop here at this level. It's probably too much, and it's just an overabundance of caution, but I'd rather have an overabundance of caution. As far as iso resin goes, it looks like I'm going to need a little bit more of an iso resin run. So the very last thing I'm going to do here is to get Sine Curve and Muhammad to go get me some. And hopefully without busting my bunker doors. How much steel do I have, though? I have enough steel to replace them if I had to. Alright, well, Muhammad's going for an early start. I don't know where Sine Curve is. I think she's probably sleeping. Yeah, here he is. Do I still... Okay. It looked like I had stuff in my cargo bays, but I didn't. Alright, off we are. The moment I think I can grab the insulation, my duplicates are like, nope. Earmarked. Okay, so we did dig up the sporchid seed. Definitely breathe a little bit easier. All we have left is this rung to make insulated. And then we'll start working on the walls. Oh man, this project is going to take a while. Hey, Buddy Bud. Yeah, you can't even keep up. Poor Buddy Bud. Trying his hardest to suppress the slime lung. Just can't seem to do it. Alright, let's start also focusing on going up too. Right, there is the last ladder right there. And then everything from here on will be just the tiles. I'm going to put in some temporary deodorizers. Probably not worth my time, but I can do it anyway. I just want to acknowledge it's not worth my time so that YouTube doesn't skewer me in the comments going, oh, what a waste of time. It's like, yeah, I know. I acknowledged it. I just didn't care. Because eventually all this stuff is going to be vented into space. But venting into space takes a while. It's a very lengthy process unless I use pumps. And perhaps I'm not that patient. Plus, it's not a terrible idea to just have a lot of unpolluted oxygen around. Okay, so one ladder left. Everything left is just the tiles. Now this tube here, if I insulate it all the way up and down, I would need some sort of pump to put the gas of my magma biome into the tube so it can vent out to space. Because obviously, if I fully complete the insulated tile tube, this will be sealed off. So I am going to have to think about that a bit. But I can think about that another episode. Well, guys, the part 2 of the magma tube is now done. If we take a look here, I'd put it about 50% completed. Who knew that this pointless project would take me so long? Probably many of you. But if you have any feedback for me, let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next episode. Farewell, everybody.